we'll fill time.
Here we go with the intro.
I'll bet the most interesting part of these videos is the minute and a half where we sit here quietly waiting for the intro to end.
At the very beginning.
Probably.
We lost 99% of our viewers instantly.
Just
I wonder if it picks up my my trolling.
I don't know.
It probably does.
I hope so. I'm just going to do this the whole
or not.
episode.
What up, nerds? Welcome back.
Like,
Here we go. Episode number 201. Holy shnikes. My name's Bob. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Tonight is going to be, like I said, episode 201, recorded on Sunday, February 10th, 2019. We're going to be talking about a movie called Day from 2002, chosen by a glorious, wonderful, beautiful Patreon, Matt G. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Santa Barbara, California, my boy Randy Gandy G. Landy.
Hello. Greetings, friends. I am sorry for last week's episode and the amount of drunkenness that was purveyed to you, the listeners, dear sweet listeners. So I'm turning over a new leaf, and I have decided to button up my shirt and clean my room and become a good citizen to the podcast. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Randy. Yes, I was thinking about that since, last show was like 4 hours long, and, we'll have a drink here and there while we record, but we don't have that long of a time to drink normally, so come the fourth hour, it got a little sloppy. Last up on the show, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, my boy Soju.
What up? It's your boy Soju. I've been watching some Game of Thrones, getting ready for that April drop, and I kind of feel like I need like a Daenerys Stormborn intro, She's got Breaker of Chains. She's got Queen of the Andals and shit. I need a your boy Soju, Hunter of the Cooters, Yabos connoisseur maybe.
Wearer of Stains.
Wearer of Stains. And then also maybe to go with that, maybe a little wrestling music too. It's his music. It's Soju. Rob can compose that for me real quick. What do you think about that?
It's just
I feel
that
that's
Biscuits rolling.
200 moving on up, you gotta mix up the show a bit, right?
I think maybe a little Vivaldi would be in order, or perhaps some Bach.
Ah, yes. Oh, it's his music. It's the Soju.
He killed the man. Holy shit.
How perhaps a gentleman about town, or a kind sir.
You're just going to start pouring soju all over your body?
Me and Randy just seem to have taken completely opposite turns here.
I don't care for your tone.
We got to cast a wide net, try and get as many people to listen to us as possible. I imagine you as being the South Korean version of what's his face? Stone Cold Steve Austin, just pouring soju all down your shirt. Smashing bottles on your forehead.
Soju bottle.
I can feel that responsibility.
I love it.
Oh my god.
I love it. Let's go ahead and get into some housekeeping real quick. Quick reminder, the February poll pick is up on our Patreon page. If you support us on Patreon at the $5 level or above, you can vote on a movie that we're going to be talking about. The movies that are up there that you can vote on
Oh
are,
boy.
I forgot about it.
Yeah, I did too. Actually,
Dracula 2000.
Yeah, thank you. We should
Queen of the Damned.
Yeah.
House
No,
of
don't explain
Wax.
it. House of Wax. So those are your choices. The reason those are your choices is because the theme is movies that Randy will hate or would hate. Probably will hate. Most
the goal
likely
is to eviscerate me with cinema.
Yes,
And-
hopefully Randy will hate these movies. And probably other people will hate these movies too. But specifically Randy should hate all of these movies for a very specific reason.
I've already pinned my congressman to oppose this action, and we'll be at the city council this evening to present my arguments against it, my filibuster.
How great would it be if we watch House of Wax and Andy's like 5 stars? I fucking love it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't think you've never seen that movie, have you, Randy?
I have not seen House of Wax. I have not seen Queen of the Damned either. I actually know almost nothing about Queen of the Damned. I do know very
It's
Oh
little.
my god, dude!
It's real dumb.
Well, I know Dracula 2000, and
Real blue.
it is. It's a hate crime. It's a hate crime, and I know that that's something that will bring out the demons in me.
Good. Bring out the
Maybe-
bourbon in you, huh, Randy?
Gracious.
I'm gonna
Bring
get
out
down
the
with
bourbon in your blood.
about to get down with the sickness on fucking Dracula 2000. Oof, that's a
Make
rough.
sure you cast your vote and get ready to hear Randy complain. I'm excited about it.
Oh man, that's such a high promise. Like, when have I ever complained about anything, Rob? Name one time.
I'm racking my brain. I got nothing. We also got a quick shout out to a brand new patron who just joined the ranks. Vincent C. Thanks for hitting us up on Patreon and supporting the show, man. We truly do appreciate it.
Thank you, Vincent.
Grazie. Justin, you had some YouTube stuff going on. Why don't you talk about that real quick?
Let's do the YouTube housekeeping. So, guys, we fucking did it. You did it. You guys went actually above and beyond. So, we were asking for 100 subscribers on YouTube. We are now at like 115. So that's fucking awesome. You can find us at YouTube/Straight Chilling Podcast.
Yay!
Locked into that custom URL. So it is /Straight Chilling Podcast. And I've done some cleaning up since it's all legit now. Here's what you can find on our YouTube channel. I went ahead and organized. We actually have a lot of YouTube content. We just started creating it in October. We have kind of racked up quite a bit now. So I created playlists for all the different segments that you can find on YouTube. So if you're on our YouTube page, just click on the playlist, and here's some of the things you'll find. You'll
Rob's
find the
forehead.
Lots of my
Lots of
forehead.
Rob's forehead.
Well,
So
you'll
much.
find the regular show, which actually is not any video content. It is the regular show like you would listen to on Spotify or iTunes and stuff like that. So it's the clean, polished show with the bumpers and everything like that. So if you want to listen to the cast on YouTube, you are free to do that. I don't know why you would, but you are welcome to do so.
Fucking
Also,
weirdos out there, man.
you have a section for behind the scenes. So behind the scenes is the show, but it is not as cleaned up. It doesn't have the bumpers, and it is essentially our faces during the show. Sometimes that is worth it, though. So I have a particular moment which did not come through on the actual cast that made it worth watching the behind the scenes video. When we covered Friday the 13th,
It's a lot of hanging dong in that fucking shit.
When we covered Friday the 13th part 4, and Randy was talking about the impotent hunter, me and Bob like stepped away from our mic and lost our shit. So it didn't come through in the actual cast, but it was like really like we were losing our shit. So that is one moment where the behind the scenes actually, you know, came through for us. Also, we have Bob's Blu-ray reviews on there. So Bob did a Blu-ray review recently. He's going to be doing some more videos, so you can find Bob's page on there. You can find the different games that we're doing on Twitch. So if you didn't know, we've been streaming horror video games on Twitch. You can see the moments where I get my new brown shorts when I'm covering Resident Evil 2 the
Sit in
remake.
your shorts.
Fragrant.
So there's going to be a couple different things with the video games on there. I do the live Twitch streams, and we have a chat going. So I put those up there. It's got all the chat and everything like that. It's just kind of like fucking around. I also go back and do a stream where there's no commentary. So if maybe you're a gamer and you're looking like for a walkthrough, or if you're not into gaming, you just want to kind of like watch it like a movie, I don't talk over them. It's just the game, so you can experience that if you want. And right now there's 2 games up. Resident Evil 2 Remake, which came out this year, and Little Nightmares, which came out 2017. So you can watch those if you want. Little Nightmares is solid. I think it's only like 3.5 hours total with everything. So if you want to watch it just like a little movie or come in and come out of it,
is that like a Xbox store game or something? Like, is that a full release, or is
it's kind of like an indie, like
that's
now
what I
the
thought.
big thing, like digital releases and stuff like that. I mean, it's not exclusive to Xbox, but
it's awesome. But
yeah,
it does seem short.
And actually, the first, like the actual main game itself, like talking about if you just want to watch it as a movie, the main game itself without the DLC is just over, I think, an hour and a half. It's about like watching a horror movie. So if you want to just like watch, and it's, even though it doesn't have me talking, it still has like all the sound effects, like all the noises and everything like that. It's just, I'm not jabbering over it and talking bullshit on the Twitch chat. So
doing that thing where you get freaked out and you go, "Ooh, boys, ooh, boys."
Oh,
dude, yesterday I'm playing that Resident Evil is scary, dude. I got some fresh brown shorts yesterday, courtesy of Mr. X. So anyways, that's what you can find on our YouTube. I've cleaned it all up. It's all organized. The October videos are on there too, the 31 Days of Halloween. So it should be all clean and organized for your viewing pleasures.
Deal.
Sweet. Thank you. Gentlemen, that's going to do it for the housekeeping. Let's get into what we've been watching this week. Randy, what you been watching?
Well, we sort of had an extended week. It's been almost 2 weeks since our last recording, so I have quite a list going here. First off, I watched the first episode of that show, Russian Doll. Are you guys familiar with this on Netflix with Natasha Lyonne?
Yeah, I watched the first 3, I think, something like that.
Oh, really? I've only seen the first episode, and I like it. It's like smartly written so far. It's basically Juice. It's a show with a very similar premise to Happy Death Day, where it's a woman's birthday, and the day keeps happening over and over with her dying, I think, multiple times, or at the end of every episode, or something like that, or at least she dies at the end of the first day, shall we say,
Okay.
and then it restarts, Groundhog style. But it's like I don't know. Instead of like a peppy, chipper, and kind of shitty sorority chick who's got to learn her lesson not to be such a dick to people, it's like a person who's been a dick her whole life. It seems like I don't know, or like just been beaten down and weathered by life a little bit, and she's having a midlife crisis. So she's like in her mid-30s or something, and sort of dealing with it. It's like I said, I haven't seen all of it, so I really don't know fully what the tone's gonna be. But I like it so far. I think it's pretty fucking fun, and it's like I said, it's smartly written. The dialogue in it is really interesting.
Huh.
So I was watching that. I watched Happy Death Day itself. Actually, it was the first time I saw that. Now that Happy Death Day to Use trailer has spoiled the movie, I figured I should watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't watch. Oh, I
What
gotcha.
the fuck?
They straight up tell you
the
who
trailer.
the killer is.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the killer was my blah 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 blah, my nightmare woman.
That's
whatever.
fucked up.
And
well, don't
it's
tell
like-
me. I actually haven't seen
No, I made
any
that
of
up.
those
I
things. Okay.
intentionally
No,
did
I know.
not to be guilty of the same crime. But I also watched Conan Without Borders. You guys are familiar with this? It's a new show on. I think it's a Netflix show, but it's Conan O'Brien basically doing an Anthony Bourdain show where he travels around, and he actually goes to South Korea, where apparently he has a massive following. And there's like an airport slammed with people with signs and shit screaming for him, even though
Dude.
I don't think his show is telecast there.
South Koreans go hard on their celeb stats, man. I
Apparently.
mean, I've stumbled into like a mall like K-pop thing one day, and it blew my mind. I was like, "What is happening?"
stars
It's like
in that-
president here, like.
In that episode, he stars in a K-pop video, so
Nice.
it's great. And that's episode 2. I've only seen the first couple, but the first one is in Cuba, so there's a lot of interesting stuff in that as well. And you know, it's like Anthony Bourdain, but like half as serious and with no point to it whatsoever, except to show Conan being weird to people who don't know who he is or don't have any prior experience with him. It's great. I enjoy that. Becky and I watched 2 movies about music. We each had to pick a movie. It's kind of what we do. We pick a theme and we pick music. Becky made me watch Drumline with Nick Cannon.
With Nick Cannon.
Oh, I was thinking
Becky's,
of that
Becky's
movie.
mad at me for not loving it, but
I was thinking of that movie, Whiplash. At first, that's what I thought it was.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh
Becky
shit.
says it was better when she was younger. Well, debatable.
I remember liking it. Okay,
She's
it's
so
hammy.
scandalized. I'm sorry. I
Whiplash
chose
is dope.
Whiplash is dope. I chose True Stories, the Talking Heads movie. Are you guys familiar with that? I wasn't
No.
familiar with it until pretty recently. It's apparently a big thing in Becky's family. It's like one that they love, and I don't know much about the Talking Heads. I've realized, and
My dad
Watch-
used to love the Talking Heads, but I couldn't name a song.
what is it? Oh man, Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah.
Days go by.
I just remember. Oh, maybe the Screaming Heads. Is that a band? That does not sound like a band my dad was into. Never mind. I think I'm confused.
And you may find yourself reading what you've been watching. So yeah, that was really great actually. It's got John Goodman's as much of a lead character as you have in that movie. It's basically a bunch of vignettes, so it's kind of oblique. But he's like in his prime and his like, I think early Roseanne period of his career, and he's fucking hilarious in it. It's all just really bizarre shit, and I really think it's great. Let's see what else. There's so much. I think the last one I'll mention is Rubber. I watched Rubber. You guys seen this
Nice. With the
Yeah.
tire, right?
tire? Which
Yeah,
was-
we all watched it. Didn't we all watch it together?
I've never seen it.
Probably.
Oh,
No.
I've seen it with at least Bob.
I had heard that it was funny, and I was like, it better be because it's a dumb. And man, it really put in the legwork to let you know that they know that it's dumb. Like that movie splits no hairs about how stupid it is. So I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know that it's like a rewatch for me, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think we enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure we were really
Yeah.
drunk. But...
People's heads were exploding, if I recall. Which
Yeah,
I'll
that's a
swing into.
telekinetic tire.
Oh yeah,
The Prince. They'll do anything.
it just.
It's like
rolls down
90% of the movie is a lot of rolling tire. The most impressive thing about
Rolling,
the movie is
rolling,
I don't know
rolling.
how they controlled the tire so well to keep it from falling down all the time.
It's all CG.
God, what a waste.
It's all CG.
Cool. Juice, what you been watching?
I am almost done with Kingdom. I think I have one episode left of the South Korean zombie movie, like middle age set kind of zombie movie, or no, zombie show. Sorry. So I have one more episode of that. It's great. It's a really good show. I know somebody on Instagram or something was talking to us about it, saying how much they enjoyed it too. It's really good. So I've been watching that. Also, I've been catching up. I did the last season of Daredevil, which is like the last season of Daredevil. It got canceled. So it was season 3. And man, that show is like really good. And there was a moment in the last episode that just like had me like actually like really excited. Like they like actually delivered on kind of their big build up and what the show was and everything like that. And just like, it was, I don't know, really exciting. And so now I'm going through Punisher as well, because I'm assuming all these shows are going to get canceled, which is a bummer because like Daredevil and Punisher are actually like really, really, really solid. The other ones, fuck them. But actually, Jessica Jones is really, I've always enjoyed Jessica Jones as well, actually. But the other ones I didn't like. But so Daredevil ended great. And that last episode was like really solid. And so far, Punisher has been really good as well. I'm enjoying it. I'm like maybe halfway through the season. I'm assuming it's gonna get canceled as well. I think Marvel is just like yanking the chain. I think they're like, nope, we got that Disney streaming. All this is gonna be our property again or whatever. So it's unfortunate because Punisher is like brutal, and it's Daredevil sometimes too. But like I just watched a scene, not to like spoil anything, where like the Punisher goes into like this like Russian mafia, like no guns, no knives or anything, and he like beats them in a gym. So he takes like iron like weights and like beats people in the face with it, and their jaws get like dislocated and their
Damn.
eyes get like caved in, and so like he like just beats them with it, like breaks their hands, and they're like it's brutal. It's like really, really brutal. And I'm just like, damn, I can't see this shit on a Disney streaming service. Whatever, dude.
It's on Magic Flix.
I mean, it's like they go hard on that shit.
That is did they leave Daredevil on a cliffhanger?
I mean, they like on one character kind of like he could come back or something, but like the main storyline they wrapped it up. I mean, on the main, like over the 3 seasons, like even though it ended, I'm like the story, like it was good, and I'm happy with like the conclusion or whatever.
Gotcha.
So
Foggy Fresh.
yeah, Frogger Fresh remake.
Nice, cool. I've been watching a few things. The first one I want to talk about is a documentary that just hit Shudder. It's called Horror Noir.
Yeah, how is that?
It's really good, man. It's really well done. It was based on a book, and basically what it's about is it's about like the history of like African American horror movies and like black actors, black directors.
Oh yeah, we watched the trailer for that, right?
Yeah, we did, and it's I don't know, it's fairly enlightening, man. They talk about a lot of movies that I had just honestly never heard of before, and they also talk about like Blackula and obviously Night of the Living Dead and more obvious stuff like that, Candyman. And they the movies that I had seen and was familiar with, like some of them, some of the actors and directors that were talking about these movies on the documentary were they kind of had interesting takes, like different spins and outlooks on these movies that I was familiar with that I wouldn't have anticipated actually. It's specifically in the fact that like some people see Candyman as like I guess like it doesn't make sense to them, because why would Candyman be in the projects specifically killing like poor African Americans when he basically exists because like affluent white people tortured him and cut his hand off and put the bees all over him and then killed him? Like, why wouldn't he be going after like wealthy white people? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in context of the story. And I never considered that. I was like, holy shit, that is a really good point. And it makes me wonder, like, Jordan Peele is going to be producing a remake of it. I wonder if that's the route that he might end up taking with it. That could be interesting.
I can't imagine he doesn't address that, especially like when it's being addressed on fucking big things like Horror Noir.
Yeah.
Like within the community, that was pretty well promoted thing.
Yeah, and he's on the documentary too.
He is? Great.
Yeah, he talks about Get Out, obviously, and other stuff. Yeah, it's totally worth a watch. I gotta be honest, man. Shudder is they're already like on my good side, but they just keep getting better and better. Holy cow, man! Their original content is fantastic.
Yeah.
So definitely check out Horror Noir. It's awesome. I also watched Velvet Buzzsaw, which was a new movie that just hit Netflix this week, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and a bunch of other people. But I guess it's the same director as Nightcrawler, which was also starring Jake Gyllenhaal. And that movie's freaking amazing. I really, really do enjoy Nightcrawler. Velvet Buzzsaw. Yeah, King Cooter, no joke. Velvet Buzzsaw has some problems. It's got that same damn problem that like every Netflix original movie seems to have, in the fact that it's 30 minutes too long, and it just like the plot meanders, and you kind of see what they were going for, but they don't totally nail the point of it, and then it just kind of it feels like half-baked in the end almost. This movie definitely starts off with a lot of comedy. So it's set in the like fine art world, and it opens up at Art Basel in Miami.
Of course.
And Gyllenhaal really everybody in this movie is either like an artist and they're like super self-involved, or they're like an art collector, or they're like running a museum or something. So they're all like just speaking in this absurd art speak, and Gyllenhaal is like Gyllenhaal is critiquing these paintings, and he's just like using this flowery fart sniffy language, and it's just so funny to me. I was freaking eating it up with a spoon. And then like halfway through the movie though, it kind of gets too self-serious when the kills start coming in, and it totally loses all of that humor. And the kills are like different. They're not like stock kills, but they're just not. It's not. There's like no real tension. It's not really scary in any way. It's just sort of different. It's like things that I have not seen before, which is enough to kind of.
Would you characterize it as Jejun?
I would indeed, sir. Jejun. So yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Yeah,
That's a
soft
throwback.
recommend. Yeah,
That sounds like
it is.
that sounds up my alley. It reminds me of very much of Murder Party, which is where I
Yeah.
picked up that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
The last thing I want to talk about that I watched is I revisited Suspiria 2018.
Oh,
Hey, did you get a good beer this time?
6 dicks up.
No beer this time, but I watched it with Mikey, and I gotta say, pretty good movie.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Not great. I still don't know that it would have made my top 10, but it would have made an honorable mention.
I don't know how it wouldn't, but
Oh,
all right.
my
Pretty
God,
good.
that is hilarious. It's so good to know the things that drive your critique of movies.
Beer.
It was a bad movie going experience. I told you all. And it wasn't
just-
just the beer. I played
You
into
just-
it, but it wasn't just.
I don't know, man. We just did a double blind study on your ass. Turns out the beer has a lot to do with it.
Double lines.
I mean, it was sour. It was sour. But yeah, pretty good. Anyway, that's it for what I've been watching. Let's go ahead and get into the main event. Don't you judge me, Soju.
Oh, God.
You
Dude,
do
I got
that.
dude, and the behind the scenes. This is a good moment. I got the best face.
There's a 0% chance that's not coming up every week from now on.
Oh yeah, it's every week for sure.
Um,
I'll never live it down. Yeah, let's go ahead and get in the main event. Talk about They. Let's start off with the back of the box. What's on the back of the box? They from 2002, presented by Wes Craven, directed by Robert Harmon. Plot is as follows. A psychology student finds all her childhood fears and phobias becoming real after a traumatic event.
Traumatic.
Short and sweet. Traumatic.
Fucking Hank Hill up in that. bit.
Traumatic.
Traumatic.
Bobby.
Oh. So yeah, this is a movie that was chosen by our lovely Patreon, Matt G. It's something that I had never seen before. I don't believe we had seen this
No.
before at all.
I
never
remember
heard
the
of this
trailer.
movie.
For some reason, I really remember the trailer for this movie. Specifically the part where the little girl says, they. And I remember being in a theater, however old I was, and being like, okay.
They.
That's a great title. Ugh.
I don't know if it was in the trailer or not. I watched the trailer before I watched this movie because we were trying to decide which one to pick, and there was a scene on this movie that I don't know if it's in the trailer or not, but it seemed like really familiar to me, where the guy's like painting and the elevator's coming down. But I don't think I've ever seen this movie before. But that scene, I was like, wait, I feel like I've seen this, but maybe it was in the trailer. I can't remember.
You're probably thinking of That Thing You Do.
Most likely. Or the Devil's Candy, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was kidding, but whatever.
Yeah. I know.
No, it is. It's very similar to the Devil's Candy, actually. And that Ethan Embry is just like painting really dark shit. He's like crazy jacked in that movie.
I'm trying to remember the Devil's
He's been
Candy
working
now.
out.
I don't remember that.
I don't think
now.
I've ever seen that either.
Maybe I haven't
Yeah.
seen.
It's
But
on
Embry is
Netflix.
jacked as fuck. I love Ethan
Yeah.
Embry, by the way. Like,
He's great.
total crush on that dude's acting shit. Love it. Everything he's been in, I pretty much like him at least in it.
Yeah, national treasure. So yeah, they something I was unfamiliar with. Matt gave us 3 movies to pick from. Actually, none of us had seen any of them, so we all watched the trailer and we landed on They. We thought the trailer looked kind of interesting, and the fact that it was presented by Wes Craven was kind of cool. So yeah, I guess would you guys recommend people check out They?
If you're looking for something on Tubi TV to watch,
This I will say this movie fits such the mold of the late 90s, early 2000s. If you're into that era of
Yeah.
horror, this movie is like fits into that category perfectly. Like even like the styles, the acting, like just the kind of characters, the look of it.
soundtrack. There's a Slipknot poster in this movie.
Yeah,
Is there? I did. Oh, I missed it.
In
the
the fucking
self-titled record.
dude.
It's so weird being like almost like 20 years removed from that now, and to be able to like recognize the styles and like fit that into like an era now. It's so like strange. It's not
Man,
it's
some
not
people got-
particularly great to look back on for me personally, but
Yeah. Some of those like
Dark days.
some people get
Yeah.
to look back on their high school days and think, man, those are the days of Dylan, or those are the days of Elvis Presley. We get fucking Slipknot. My God.
Saliva.
This is like, if you want an encapsulation of what this movie feels like, it almost feels like watching one of those infomercials that tells you how to download ringtones or the joke of the day text sort of thing
That's
on
something that's
Fuse.tv.
really hard for me to like get past with some movies too. If it's like in the 80s and they don't have cell phones, like that doesn't bother me, and that's not a time I really like lived through, so I don't get that kind of like a little bit of cringe thing. But something about like like pagers, like I paged him or something, just like ugh, like I hate it. Like I don't know why. Or like even when they're talking in like Die Hard 2, I think he's talking about the fax machine, like fax. I'm just like, get that shit out of here.
What an
Fucking
idiot.
fax machine.
Fucking California faxing shit.
Bunch of losers.
Cigarettes,
With
am I
their
right?
pagers.
Just like a weird, awkward technological time.
I'm gonna use my
It did.
my Apple Newton to write myself a note real quick.
Or
That
even
did
like
crack
you've got
me up.
mail, like the whole idea of that, like, like AOL and shit. I'm just like, ugh.
We've already sort of,
Gross.
this has
Dark
been a
time.
really weird way to answer the question, do we recommend this
Tangent. Okay,
Oh.
so for me, like that kind of time is not particularly like I'm not really into it now looking back. So it was kind of hard for me on that on the Slipknot poster kind of factor, the dark clothes factor or whatever. I'm just like, I'm not really digging it. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to get. It's hard for me to relive those days.
Yeah. I can't recommend this really. I think from what I gather, people that I have seen this, if they saw it when they were kind of younger, they definitely have a healthy dose of nostalgia going on. But I didn't, and I just didn't really. It didn't do it for me personally. So no, not really. That's a no from Bob. It is very funny. Like we were talking about the technology and shit and the pager and whatnot, and like the movie kind of opens and the girl's listening to her voicemails off of like her little cassette tape. And
That's
then
right.
She's driving down the road and her CD starts skipping, and I was like, that is just not a
Man,
problem anybody
It's
has.
so
anymore.
wild, yeah, to
Yeah.
like relive those things. Ugh, it's crazy.
Have you checked the internet yet? I'm surprised I didn't have a scene like that where like I've been looking on the internet and there's a
The
lot
web.
of things on
The
there.
internet.
And
The
they have a
what?
lot of things. They have a computer that can tell you all about mysticism or some shit. Like I don't know. I feel like every movie of that.
Mysticism.
They have endless pornography on here.
I
Did you
printed it on my
realize?
I printed on my printer that prints out on one long sheet of paper that's purple.
You gotta cut that shit.
Yeah, you know.
You gotta get your machete
Weird
out and
times,
slice
dark
it up.
times.
That might be closer to 80s, but fuck it. We're going.
One long sheet of paper. Okay, so yeah, that's a pretty lukewarm recommend, I think, across the board there. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the nitty gritty. Spoiler warning. Talking about They, presented by Wes Craven. I wonder, like, I don't know if he presented other movies or like why it says
Okay,
Wes
yeah.
Craven presents exactly.
Yeah, hang on. I was gonna say, like, let me play the role of ignorant slut for a second. Like, what's
you're
up
not
with
playing.
what's Wes Craven presents? Because I was looking for this movie, and it looks like he did that shit a decent. Like, Wes Craven presents like some kind of like Dracula movies or some shit too. Like, it seems like that came up like a decent amount. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, what is this? Does
I
anybody know?
I don't know.
I
man,
think he
it's
just
easy
produced-
money.
So here's the little bit that I do know is going to be part of trivia. I'll just go ahead and spill it. It says, contrary to the marketing's claims, Wes Craven had no involvement in the production of the film. The complete U.S. title is is Wes Craven Presents They.
Yeah.
Craven was considered an executive producer of the movie. However, other than lending his name to the title, he had no part in making the making of They. It's assumed
paycheck.
It's assumed that the purpose for putting his name on the title was to publicize the movie and attract horror fans. He's the John Grisham of directors, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, and I just wanted to point out that I'm trying to find some examples now. That is not the only one I saw. I was looking for this movie, and it was Wes Craven Presents, and I was like, what? I am completely ignorant to what is happening here.
I don't know. I don't know the other one.
James Wan is heading. I feel like he's gonna be there any moment.
That's basically where he is. I mean, that's the Blumhouse factor, really. But they are actually producing it, and they do have their fingers in the pot in some capacity. But they don't take an artistic stance at all. And to my knowledge, I don't know how much they're involved at all in any sort of show notes or anything like that with each movie that they produce. So, I mean, obviously they're a little bit more successful than Wes Craven's little run here, but it sounds like Wes Craven was getting his money, man. That's all I can tell.
Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000.
That's what I thought. I was going to say that, but I wasn't positive. I think he did produce Dracula 2000. Yeah.
I gotta watch that, even if it's not chosen by the Patreon poll pick. I gotta watch that fucking movie. I gotta.
And there's a couple more. You can buy double features of Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000 and Dracula 2 Ascension or something. Ascension maybe. I don't know. It's kind of blurry. The photo's not high def, but So Jesus. Dude, okay, so he apparently presented Dracula 2000, Dracula 2 Ascension, and then Dracula 3 Legacy. These photos are terrible. And then so you can buy a four split deal of Wes Craven Presents.
$5 bin special.
They all sound so good.
They're so good.
God, I'm looking at the Dracula 2 poster now. That's about right. That's about fucking right. Holy shit. God damn.
So let's talk about They. Let's actually get into it a little bit. The opening scene, there's this little kid laying in bed, and this is the most paint by numbers scene of any horror movie I can really think of. It's scared little kid in bed at night. He's got the creepy, his eyes are too big for his face thing going on, and his mom comes in and she just tells him to if he gets scared, just get under the covers. There's a thunderstorm, and he's saying, they come for me at night. And then she leaves, and then he sees a monster in the closet. And then of course he gets underneath his covers with a flashlight, and the flashlight goes out, of course, somehow. And then he gets pulled underneath his bed by his feet, and you've got that standard shot where the characters being pulled away from the camera that you see in every freaking horror movie. It's just checking all the boxes that you gotta check.
I think this movie does that through most of the movie. The dialogue in this movie is the most cliche. At one point, hang on, I think I wrote a couple ones down. Alone at last. I almost didn't recognize you, despite the fact that they say they're longtime friend. The dialogue is almost just copy and pasted. I feel half the time it's oh, here we go.
It's got to be said. The number one problem for me in this movie is the acting / dialogue for every fucking scene. Every scene is a slog because there was a moment where our lead actress and her boyfriend were kissing, and there was supposed to be a passionate kiss, and I was I've never seen a more loveless kiss that was this looks
Look in the mirror, Randy.
This looks like an exercise in an acting class that has gone wrong. This is not working.
The problem too with this film, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of this movie is talking about the situation.
I know.
And it's damn guys, this is not your strong suit. You guys need to move it along.
I know. Ethan Embry, I love him, but his role is like so fucking weird, where he's like extremely moody. He's supposed to be this sardonic humor dude that makes terrible black paintings, and like he really just like comes off as frantic more than anything. It doesn't really like make a lot of like. I enjoy watching Ethan. Like I said, I like Ethan's shit. I'm all about Ethan Embry's shit. But this like movie gives him such a confused character to start with that I couldn't really dig it. I couldn't dig it all that much. And then the rest of the characters are even worse because I don't have this built-in stock for liking them.
Yeah.
So
I feel like each one of the characters like had a thing that was supposed to make them interesting. Like when they were like pinning the characters, you know, they're like, oh, this guy does this and this, but it never mattered or did anything. Like at one point the boyfriend like mentions like, oh, I had a terrible day. He's the EMT and he's like, I've been cut. Like there was a terrible pile up on the highway. I've been cutting like bodies out, you know, like dead bodies out of their cars. Like give me a
real
break,
support
bitch.
your troops moment.
Yeah. But like it didn't matter. Like I was like, oh, this guy's an EMT. Like that never came up again or mattered in any way. And it's like kind of the same thing with like the painter, like, oh, I'm a painter, but I want to be a lawyer. And kind of the same thing with the girl, like, oh, I'm a psychologist. It's like, but none of it mattered. None of it did. And like they would throw these like little moments in where like, oh, this is who I am as a person. But I didn't like give a shit. Like it didn't do anything.
I mean, well, boyfriend really was just playing the most rigid straight square I have ever seen in my life. Like
dude,
he's like the
standard
perfect
white boyfriend.
He's the perfect boyfriend. He's too empathetic. Like that conversation they had at the bar at the when you first get introduced to him is so fucking painful because it's like, oh, you're like, it's like so expository. It's like, okay, so how are we going to tell everybody that she's a psych student, he's an EMT, and he's really good for her, and how good it is. And that the way they do it is by just saying those things out loud. Like that's it.
He's got this one line is my favorite line in the whole movie. They're playing pool, and you know he decides to make it interesting and like put $20 on the game or something. And she's like, you know, I'm feeling it tonight. I'm feeling it tonight. And he goes, let's see if you're feeling it if something's riding on it. I'm just like, Jesus, who
Under
wrote
pressure.
this?
That's more sexual than I thought. I didn't even really put that together. But
dude, that dude gets the ultimate cockblock though. I felt bad for that guy. He's like headed to Bone Town, and then all of a sudden this chick gets was it a cell phone or he paged her something? A call from her. Okay, call from her. Okay, so here's the thing about
childhood friend.
Her childhood friend who her boyfriend knows about, like, oh, I know how close you are because apparently like they made it seem like this has happened before. Like, oh, you're so empathetic, like you always go to him like, oh, but I'm a good boyfriend, I'll deal with it. But then okay, so he gets shut down, cop, she's like, I'll be right back. Then she goes to the diner and they've had this whole discussion about like how you're a great friend and how you're always leaving me for him and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, I barely recognized you. And I was like, when was the last time you saw this guy? What are you talking about? You just had a conversation about how you're like, what? That doesn't
tightly written.
Also, like, I want to.
Well, then the dude blows his brains out in front of her. So then it's like, well, that dude's not getting laid for a long time.
I did not see that coming, by the way.
I didn't either, but I thought it was fucking hilarious because her reaction, and this is not going to play in the audio format, so check out our YouTube. But her reaction to her childhood friend freaking out and then shooting himself in the fucking head is to go. It's like she just got sprayed with water. It's blood. It's blood.
Her reactions throughout
and then she just goes home and showers. That's about it.
Her reactions throughout the movie had me cracking up, actually. There's this one scene that's actually pretty cool. Like when the monsters start kind of showing up and things start getting kind of crazy. She opens her medicine cabinet in her bathroom and you look through it. And it looks basically like it's the Upside Down or some shit. You see all these creatures in there.
I had like a Cronenberg kind of feel. I was like,
me
too. Dude, that's my favorite scene. That scene was fucking dope.
The way she reacts to that shit, though, like her boyfriend comes in soon after that and she just starts screaming. And the way that she's screaming is like man, I'm really trying to scream right now. Like, it's just, she's not selling it at all. She does not actually look
The
scared.
inner monologue is going, scream queen, scream queen, scream queen, go, go,
I'm doing
go,
it.
go,
I'm
go.
really doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
That scene was, but like I wrote, that was by far. I wish they'd done more of that because she
Yes.
reaches into this like dimension or whatever. It's all like black, and she comes out with like some venom on her hands.
I said the same shit, by the way.
Venom.
Yeah, it looked like fucking venom, but it like starts to like break her hand, like her fingers
That
get
was
all
cool.
distorted. That was really cool. And I was like, okay, that was like maybe 20 minutes in, 15, 20 minutes. So I was like, all right, I'm really excited for that. And it never came back. Never again.
Well,
Huh?
kind of in the ending,
Well,
but
at the
that
very-
crushing venom stuff doesn't really.
No, yeah, that like idea of like, or even that kind of scene where like her fingers got all distorted. I was like, oh my God. Like that
They never.
never
That's the most
happened
brutal
again.
thing that happens in the movie, for
Yeah.
sure. I also like. Well, here's the thing, guys. So this movie is basically. This is where like I have sort of like a little bit of a soft spot, a small soft spot for this movie in this regard. The whole premise of this movie is that these kids all have night terrors, which is something that I have had
Yeah, I
my
was thinking of
entire
you.
life.
Yeah.
So like, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm like, okay, so what if you find out that all these other people that have night terrors are suddenly like winding up dead somehow or killing themselves a lot, and they're having these resurgences of. I'd be like, okay, yeah, in that scenario that'd be scary, but nothing about this movie sells any of the scary aspects. Like they're really committed to that idea that the night terror thing is related to these creatures, that's what causes it, and it's like almost like an alien invasion where they come in and when you're a kid and they scare you and then they come back years later and harvest you somehow. But like they don't, all they do is really like tell you that that's what's happening, and
Yeah.
then you just like fucking, there's no fear involved whatsoever, not even no tension even.
Well, and one of the things I liked, or like I was liking the idea, is like taking that idea of the night terrors, because they talk about how all of them too were like had some kind of trauma in their childhood to like spurn like on these like night terrors, like, oh, like my dad committed suicide, or like, so. And they also play with the idea of like the girl's a psychologist and she doesn't start freaking out until after she watches her friend kill herself. So the whole like idea of like, oh, is this just like a PTSD thing?
Yeah.
Is it a trauma
That's
thing?
interesting.
That is interesting.
That's the thing, is,
especially
like, it's
once
got a
they
great
find each
concept.
other. Yeah, but they didn't. They like, that was another one of those things where it was like, here's some details to make things interesting, like the people, but it doesn't matter.
It
Like
doesn't translate to any fear because
Yeah,
nothing
because it's just like,
believable.
it's just like, nope, it's really monsters. Like they don't ever actually toy with that. Like you actually, they're like, nah, it's actually monsters.
Plus,
So
even
it's like, well, why did you tell me that then? Like I don't know.
Even if
It's
they
like
had
kind of
those,
frustrated.
like they have this great like conceit basically, and that's really all that they have. What?
Your hand.
The way you're sitting is
Hey.
very funny.
So-
Dude, that's
Check out our
totally like
YouTube.
South Korean girls. They love to like make their face look really small, so they do that
Um,
with the V or whatever.
So yes,
Andy.
it just got like they've got such an interesting conceit, and it's like personally interesting to me as somebody who's experienced the night terror. Like this is like true. I don't have it very often anymore, and as adult, but like it is true that it's primarily in children, and then only usually in adults when they've had like a crazy stressful day or like a long day or something. That's true for me. Like when I've had a crazy long day, or if I stayed up way past what I should have, or something like that, then I'll have an incident or whatever. But I never remember it, which is really hilarious for Becky because she gets to fucking wake up to my ass screaming in her face. There was one time where I was like inches from. I was told this, by the way. I hear these stories secondhand, but I was like inches from Becky's face, and she wakes up and sees me there, and then I just scream.
That would
Holy
Dude.
fucking!
I would have
Wait,
I would have a brand new brown sheets, guy.
That's much scarier than anything in this movie.
Oh god!
I mean,
Thanks, Randy, for the brand new brown sheets, my guy. Appreciate it.
so yeah, I mean, so I'm like primed for this. I'm primed for this concept, and it's they can't deliver really on any aspect of it because the characters are so poorly written, so stock and so uninteresting, and God, just so fucking boring that you can't care. You just can't.
My imagination imagining Randy doing that is
I
more
know.
terrifying than this. like, oh my God, that sounds terrible.
I'm loving it.
I'm gonna do it in the camera. Now close your eyes and now open them.
We're really selling this YouTube shit right
Yeah,
now.
we are. I'm really trying my best here, guys.
Interactive.
So yeah, I don't know. The lead actress in this is constantly sort of like confused and whatever, which is fine. Like, I know what she's trying to do, and I know what she's been told to do. The problem is that it's not really motivated. It's sort of like passive. It's like a passive agreement to whatever happens in this movie. She doesn't take a lot of like actionable steps to prevent these things from happening to her. And let's talk about like characterization. Can you guys tell me anything at all about the female character that lives in the studio loft with Ethan Embry?
Yeah, I can. There's
She's
like
the
one
Qui-Gon
cool,
Jinn of this movie. She has nothing.
There's one cool story that she relays. It doesn't really it doesn't say anything about her personality necessarily, but she's talking about how when she was a kid having night terrors and stuff, she was freaking out after one, and her father came in and tried to console her, and she stabbed him in the eye with a knife.
Yeah.
See,
Kinda
I like
crazy.
that. I like that because too, that was like playing with the whole aspect. She was like, I stabbed my dad with a knife, or in the eye. And then at the same time too, when the main chick like has her episode, she's in the bathroom, she gets venom all over her hands, and it's like shown that she's attacking her boyfriend. So I was like, that's an interesting aspect.
They didn't
like,
follow that up.
no, they didn't. Like, and
everybody's
like
individually picked off.
Yeah, they followed up that story with they followed up that scene with the girl talking about stabbing her dad in the eye, and I was like, well, okay, maybe these people are like fucking crazy, or like, like, I don't know, like,
even if
and
they're
so
not crazy,
it's like,
that's an inciting incident, and that's a cool interaction for them to have as they're experiencing these traumas.
Like, I would have been fine if I never saw the monster again, and it was just showing me people attacking like their friends. Like, I thought maybe the girl would like attack her doctor, or like, like something like that. Like, that was more scary or interesting to me than like these like Cloverfield monster things.
I mean,
They're so Cloverfield, right?
I think that like I agree and I disagree. I think there could have been less monster, and they definitely should have explored like the danger that they pose to like fucking paramedic boyfriend should have been stabbed in this movie. That like not in that first scene, but at some point when we think that like we're seeing through her eyes the monster and she's fighting it off, and there's this tense scene, it would make narrative sense for him to get like killed in sort of like the beginning or the end of the third act,
especially
sort of
for
like,
her to end up in the hospital. So like maybe if she had, instead of that whole scene they have with the monsters dragging her and chased her, if she had like done that but killed her boyfriend, and then she wakes up and she's in the mental hospital, because she actually kind of sold that pretty well, or they sold that pretty well, where at the very end she ends up in a mental hospital and she's just got this like look of dread, like, oh my God, like where have I ended up? And then, like, that would have been cool. That would have been a better way to approach this movie. And then they still could have been, like, taking her into the further or whatever, taking her into the upside down. And then you would have been like, oh, it really is real. Like, it would have been so much better to me.
I think, I agree. Like, I think that this, like, the trauma aspect is underdeveloped, and it's, like, the most obvious red herring of all time, to the point where you want it to be a better red herring. Like, like any movie of this time period. This is in the early 2000s. This is post Shyamalan.
2002.
Yeah. This is like in a Shyamalan world right here. So like, I don't necessarily need a twist, but around this time, people are expecting. A lot of people are like kind of expecting that sort of rug pull of some kind. This movie doesn't even attempt it. It just says, "Oh, this is kind of related," and then just leaves it on the table the whole movie, like the Bluebell ice cream and The Strangers. It's
Another thing I did like, another scene, I liked like the kind of mark that they had, and I liked when she pulled like that thing out of her head. Like that was kind of a little bit of a brutal scene,
Yeah.
or like a brutal idea. So the idea is like everybody's got this mark on their body from when they were younger, I guess, when they were taken to the further or whatever. And but it only shows up when they're like about to get you, and I guess it's got like some kind of like beak. It's got something inside you that you could pull out.
But that's
And there's
underdeveloped too.
there's this one like one really funny scene. It was kind of funny to me where she's like having her boyfriend. It's just an excuse. It's kind of funny because it's like so transparent. So it's really an excuse to get this girl in her underwear. And the whole idea is like, oh, boyfriend, look for my spot. Where's my spot? And he's like, look, and she's like standing there in her underwear. And I was like, damn, girl, it's probably in your cooch then if you can't find it. Like, it's like just because you're wearing the underwear, it's like, god damn.
And it turns out what's so funny about that
Probably.
is it turns out the spot is on her fucking face.
Yeah, and it's like on her
It's
forehead.
It's like, oh, I never
can't
pulled
find
my
it.
hair up before. I never pulled my early 2000s child haircut up before behind the barrette and noticed this mark.
That haircut was
Talking
driving me
about.
wild.
Me too, man. That haircut made her look like a tall child.
Also, she like has really light hair, so it looked like she had like no eyebrows. She's got a
That-
fucking like Jared Leto like Joker thing going. It's
And
like
I don't
no
wanna,
fucking
like-
eyebrows.
I don't want to like I'm not disparaging this actress's looks or anything. I think that's just a product of the time. That haircut was everywhere at that time, and it drives me nuts looking back at it now. It's like, why did we want our like why did people want to look like children? I don't understand.
Youthful.
Anyways.
Want to look young, Randy.
Yeah, but not like
12.
toddler. I don't wear
I
like a Chucky style overalls and stripy sweater.
It's never too late.
I'm just trying to go for a youthful look, bro.
So ultimately, she gets sucked into the further though. She gets taken to a mental hospital because people think she's crazy. She thinks monsters are scaring her or whatever. And then, but they really like get her. And then like she's like in this mirror kind of world, but it's in the closet.
Kind of
It's
cool.
like Hellraiser-ish, kind of.
It's like she's trapped. She's basically invisible to the people that can help her. And
Yeah, but she
As soon
can
as
see
the doctor
them
closes
as long as the light, like the closet door's open, and so there's light shining in like from the window from the room. But as soon as like he closes the door, then the monsters get her because
they
they're
fear
scared
the
of
light.
the light. Except they were able to get her in her room in the same situation. That was the thing about the whole light. They were like, oh, it protects. Like light protects you, but the monsters can just shut it down. Like the monsters just are able.
They can shut down the lights. They
shut
can
down
blow
the
out
lights.
candles.
So
They
it's
can
like-
turn off electricity.
Yeah, so it's
So-
like no obstacle for them. So there's
Drain
no
batteries.
real. Yeah.
I don't know,
Whatever.
man. This movie like feels
There's,
like
there's a lot of holes.
there's just it's just undercooked. The whole premise is it's a great premise that's undercooked on the specifics, but they're very like specific about what the specifics are because the exposition is terrible. So they just say what it's supposed to be, and then you're left to say like, oh, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's not ambiguous. It's not any of that shit. It's just like, oh, well, you fucked up then. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All the- Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, anything else? Should we just rate it? You guys got anything else?
Nah, that's right. It.
Yeah, let's rate it.
Let's do it. Randy, you want to kick us off out of 5? How are you feeling about They?
So they to me is like it's just typical of its time, and it's like it suffers from a lot of shit that we've already sort of gone over. But I want to talk about the specific things that I liked about this movie, and the biggest one among them is I really loved the conceit, and I thought the effects were pretty good. I thought like some of the set piece of the cabinet where she looks through the medicine cabinet, that was so cool to me. I was like, oh, that actually gave me hope for the movie that was eventually cashed. But I don't know. I enjoyed all that stuff. It's just that the dialogue, the exposition, the pacing, the decisions and motivations of the characters, they're all drastically underbaked and undercooked. So you've got a lot of people doing things that don't make a whole lot of sense, and monsters that are supposed to make sense but really kind of don't. They don't really necessarily follow their own rules. and also they're a little bit overexposed. I think at one point you like can see their face with their mouths or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, it looks like Groot. It looks like a bad Groot.
And it's the early 2000s kind of CGI too,
Right.
which doesn't hold up well.
No, it looks better when it's more concealed in the dark, which, fortunate for them, is part of the
Yeah.
conceit. So it works really well, especially like I said, and whenever you see into their lair or whatever, I really like the look of that shit, where it's like sort of like just bodies encircling. It looks like fucking, I don't know. It's good, but they just can't make that stuff land because they don't give their characters any charisma to work with. They don't give their actors any charisma to work with. And there's like I said, the woman who accompanies Ethan Embry and is like another night terror survivor, aside from that one
Yeah.
monologue describing her stabbing her stepfather or father in the eye, I can't describe her. She
She's
literally
like a
has
typical,
no
like
character.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of gothic.
She's
Like
got. I
it's
can't
just
even
like-
place her accent. So like, what am I fucking doing? Like, I don't. I don't know, man. It's and they squander a lot of potential. They don't really follow up on any of the insanity red herrings. They don't follow up on having people like actual. If they had committed to the night terror aspect, like Juice said, and actually had more like violent lashings out in your sleep, causing them to cause harm to people that are actually trying to help them. But then you find out that it's actually like these creatures that are causing them damage. I was like, okay, it's not the most original idea, but I like it. It's interesting to me, and it would at least fulfill that promise a little bit. It just doesn't fulfill a lot of promises to me. This movie kind of like, it just kind of farts out. I'm gonna go with, because I really do like that that their little lair or whatever, and I like the visual of that. I'm gonna give it 1.75.
1.75 from Randy
Oh.
Gandy Giuliani. All right.
so generous.
I thought so.
Juice. Juice, how you feeling? Out of
No,
5?
yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.5. That the trying to like stretch it to the 7.5, 1.75.
Well, I was actually debating a 2, but I was like, I can't be that
Yeah.
dishonest. I'll regret that later.
No, I'm gonna give it a 1.5, and I will like. There were two scenes where I was like, well, no, more than that. I mean, the mirror, like her night terror scene was the best by far to me, and it like didn't even compare. And it's unfortunate that was like within the first 20 minutes of the film. The actual like kind of like Randy said, the guy freaking out at the beginning and shooting himself, that was pretty cool too. Her friend, that guy sold that pretty well, even though the actress didn't. But that was kind of a cool scene. He starts like freaking out in the diner and it's like raining outside. So that was pretty cool. The Barb scene I liked. And I liked like when the girl's talking about stabbing her dad. So I mean it definitely had some positives. And really I think the most frustrating thing too, it's not like a completely like shit film or like worthless or anything like that. I think it's the frustrating aspect of the kind of the squandered potential, because there were things where I was like, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. And it just never came to fruition for me. And that's more frustrating than just a complete, you know, like sometimes if there's not anything there, then maybe it can be funny or I don't know. But to see the potential and then know that it's not developed is frustrating sometimes. So that's unfortunate. And also just the time period too. It's just one of those personal things that kind of rubs me wrong. Unless it's like fucking Scream or some shit, I have a hard time with that particular like 5 to 8 year era where people are still using like pagers and like cell phones or
We'll call it the
fax
wallet,
machine.
the chain wallet.
The chain
era.
wallet era. That's appropriate. So yeah, so this one I can only give it a 1.5, unfortunately.
Chain wallet era. Yeah, I agree with you, Justin. I'm going to give it a 1.5 as well. This movie's just kind of middling. It's got like some interesting ideas floating around, but overall, it feels very stock to me in what it does pull off. And there's like a couple little surprises along the way. Like the creature effects were actually better than I anticipated they would be, even though you don't get a ton of the creatures. And I think probably the biggest miss to me is like, I don't know that I've ever seen a movie with Ethan Embry in it where I was like, I don't know, he didn't really add anything. I just, you just like when you got Embry in the cast, you just don't use him. He's just a
squandered
white boy.
the Embry.
They
He's just
tried
a
to
big
turn
old
him.
white boy.
They tried to turn him into like this like sardonic character, and it just doesn't play because he's not like they're like, oh my god, you're so dark. It's like nothing he said was all that dark. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
He just paints. He just paints with black, and that's about his like.
Nothing
That's
but
all
black.
to take from his
50
character.
Shades of Black, the Ethan Embry documentary. I'd watch it. Yeah, there's just not a lot going on here. There's like some unintentionally comedic moments with the acting, and the dialogue is pretty rough. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty lukewarm. This isn't like the best era for horror movies, but you can do a lot better than this, I think. I think it was Wes Craven just lending his name. He probably made like $100,000 just to throw his name on this fucking.
See,
DVD
that's frustrating to
cover or
me
whatever.
too. Like, I don't appreciate that. I don't like
Yeah.
not like it
Well, that-
really drove, but like you said, when we were trying to pick these movies, we were kind of like, oh, Wes Craven Presents, like that's interesting, and to
That
know
was
that
why-
it's
That was
Yeah.
why we picked this one out
yeah,
of the.
to know that it's like nothing, that it's literally not like a paycheck for that man. That's like frustrating as a viewer, because like you consider those like, oh, Wes Craven, like that's something you think. Like, now I'm not fooled by like produced by James Wan. Like maybe I'll consider it a little bit, but I'm not fooled at this point.
But Presents? I'm fooled.
Wes Craven Presents, to know he had nothing to do with it other than a name. That's like, fuck that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This is in the post Scream era too. Like Scream had already like knocked
Oh,
people's
yeah.
dicks into the dirt, and he came out and they're like, "Okay, we'll pay you $100,000 to put your name on." And we're like, I can't really blame him from a financial standpoint,
Me either.
But from
Yeah.
a
But
from
at
a,
least, I would
I
like
feel-
if
I
it were
feel duped,
my name.
so-
Well, if it were my name, like I don't blame him either, but I would at least be like, well, let me like help you do something. Like I would like, well, let me like, can I take a look at
Exactly.
the script or like something?
your name's being put on, and like that. If
Yeah.
that's what they're buying, then you need to like, I don't know. You don't need to do anything, but if it's me, I agree. I'd be like, oh well, this script's fucked up. Do you mind if I take a second pass at it?
Can I fix it?
Yeah, give me an
The
extra
script's
50 grand. I'll
fucked,
help
Jack.
you write your script, and then I can at least sleep at night.
Yeah. And
My
when we
new
watched
and
the
my
trailer,
new brown sheet.
yeah, when we watched the trailer, we were making some connections to Nightmare on Elm Street. We thought there might be some parallels between this
Oh,
movie and
yeah.
that, because they were talking about not wanting to go to sleep in the trailer. We're like, okay, maybe there's like some similar themes going on. But
Yeah,
there really isn't. I mean, night terrors and like nightmares, I guess, are like loosely related, but there's no like. Nothing is really happening in their dreams in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
Luckily, you can watch this movie for free though, so don't.
You can.
If you want to fall, huh?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said you can't. I thought you were questioning me.
Don't you dare!
So sorry.
You
So
can't.
do.
No, you can. So if you want to follow along with the cast, you can absolutely watch this movie for free.
Yep,
you
it's
go.
on Tubi.
Tubi.
So the aggregate is going to be a 1.6 for they. Sorry, Matt. Sorry we shat on your movie, big dog. We still appreciate
Yeah, I hope you aren't living and dying by this movie, man, for a couple of reasons, but primarily because I would feel bad for shitting on it so much. But it's not a great movie, man. I hope you know that.
Mang. Not a great movie, Mang. Let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment. See what the critics and oozers think about They. Take it away, Soju.
All right, way to start off the next 100 episodes, eh, boy?
Yeah, man. You know how to kick shit off. I'll tell you that.
201.
Mang.
Bang! All right. So this has a decent sample size, I guess. It's still low, but 56 critics rated this movie. So let's go around the table. Rob sipping water. So Randy, kick us off. Of the 56 reviews, what do you think critics rated They?
10%.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of like if I'm a critic in the 90s.
You are.
If I'm a critic in the 90s watching this for the first time, how pissed am I? how am I? I already just by virtue of being a critic in the 90s am skewed against horror movies for no reason. But then on top of that, I watch this movie after it has then also applied Wes Craven's name to it. Like, yeah, I'm pretty pissed. I think it's 10%. 10% maybe would have liked this movie.
All right. 10% from Randy. Rob.
Hey, if it's good enough for the Lord, it's good enough for they. Am I right?
What?
The 10%.
I
think
That's
it's
an
higher
obscure
than that.
joke.
Sorry.
not for Southern Baptists, Juice.
Yeah, we're in the South. Tithe, motherfuckers. I'm gonna go with like a 30.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
Bob got really close. 38% is the
Shit.
number we're looking at here. Average rating 4.2 out of 10. Of the 56 reviews counted by the critics, 21 were fresh, 35 were rotten, with a critic consensus of they fails to sustain the level of creepiness necessary to rise above other movies in the horror genre. Also, this title's terrible. The title they
Yeah, man.
it's like to read it out loud like as a title, it's just like it's bad.
I'm
But
gonna.
let me
There
read.
should,
Hang on, let me read a positive. It's certainly entertaining enough and made with great style, but the whole thing feels slightly undercooked. Now that was a top critic fresh review, so even in
named
there, yeah,
Randy.
yeah. Another rotten top critic says stinks from start to finish like a wet burlap sack of gloom.
I thought you were gonna say a wet fart for a minute. I was like, how do they
I
have a
didn't
direct
read it
line?
beforehand, and I was hoping that's where it was going. But I did not read it beforehand.
When this guy's learn it.
I really like this description. Wet burlap sack of gloom, especially reading it as a surprise. Like, what? Wet
Big old
burlap
sack of
gloom.
There's nothing more gloomy than a wet burlap sack. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
why is it wet? Like,
Because it's gloomy and because it's a sack. It's just a wet sack. It's just a wet sack of a movie, guys. Why don't you get it?
that's a wild description. All right, so rotten from the critics. Let's get into the audience score. 12,881 is the Oozer rating over here. So I mean, it's lower, but since I had never even heard of this movie, it's decent enough for me. So, what do you boys think out of the almost 13,000 people that rated this movie? Rob, kick us off.
I'm gonna go probably a little higher than critics, I would say. Maybe
Okay.
like a 45.
45. All right, Randy, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna hit it with an even 50, so I'm about in the same thought
Even
process.
50. All right. Surprisingly, that is not the case. We are even lower than the critics over here.
Wow.
Damn. The people are not pleased with being. I think the people are like us. They're like, "What's Craven? What the fuck?"
What the fuck?
23%. So
Wow.
we at least like I feel bad like we're
That's-
kind of we're shitting on Matt's movie unless that's what he wanted us to do. But we are at least aligned with the people on this one. Men of the people.
Man
average
of the
rating-
people.
We have an army of disgruntled Craven fans at our back.
Average rating, I mean, we're still lower than the average, but 2.6 out of 5, which is higher than the 23% indicates. But 23% said, nah, rotten. Or, well, no, okay. I don't know. Whatever. It's 23%.
They said, nah, whatever.
This movie is
Oh,
not
whatever.
favorably by really anyone so far. I've not, other than this one dude who still said it was undercooked. So whatever. Yeah, that is our Rotten Tomatoes segment. Soju out.
Mic drop. Let's go ahead and get into some trivia. Take it away, Randy.
So we don't have a ton of trivia, but we have some interesting things about deleted scenes and alternate endings here. So saddle up for that shit.
Whoa! I thought you were going a different.
Yeah.
What?
Swerve.
You went suck my saddle up here.
No, I just the fucking mic.
Suck
moved.
my sack of
It
glue.
sounded like you said, "Suck my saddle up here." I was like, "Whoa!"
Well, suck my dick. So
Rob gotten that Korean teenage girl status kicking.
All day, every day.
here we go. So though Brendan Hood, who is the director, is credited as the screenwriter. I'm sorry, not the director. I don't know what I'm talking about. Though Brendan Hood is credited as the screenwriter, he only came up with the basic idea. Everything in the original draft was subsequently written out by the producers, and it's estimated that up to 10 people have worked on the script. Who could tell? Only one of them. Only one of them was credited for the revised script. So what the fuck? This clearly
Sounds
had too
about
many cooks in
right.
the kitchen.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
You may be asking yourself, so okay, what was the original idea? Here it is. In the original unaltered script by Brendan Hood, the plot dealt with a group of 4 recent college grads who discover that Earth is actually run by a race of organic machines which allow the human race to exist so they can kill them and harvest their corpses for spare parts as their bodies break down and deteriorate. What the fuck? What movie is that?
Sign me up.
Like,
That's
so that
that's
guy wrote
kind of like
that guy wrote
alternate
Cheat the
Matrix.
Yeah.
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 wrote Cheap Matrix and they turned it into this. I mean, I guess it's an upgrade, but I guess very much. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not like this is an early 2000s movie. There shouldn't be like that strong of a Matrix connection going on here. I know it's a very green and blue tinted movie, but let's know ourselves a little bit here, filmmakers.
That was the
Um,
thing, wasn't it? God damn.
This is a green movie.
It's a bit of a green movie. It's maybe a teal movie.
Yeah, it's kind of feel.
All right, so moving forward, the explanation for why they target certain children and return later to hunt them down is ambiguous. That's another way of saying they don't talk about it. They just don't.
Also,
like,
it doesn't really make any sense. Like they take the effort to take children to their lair where they're gonna get eaten, I think. But then they're like, we'll wait 20 years.
Let's track
We'll
them
come
first.
back. We'll come back and get you.
Let this
What?
one get a little fatter.
One theory
Whatever.
One theory
Okay.
is that they are doing what human researchers do when we study a species, which is to tag the specimen, release it, and later use the tracking device to find it again in order to chart its progress and development. Which is actually what I actually thought that in the movie, but that doesn't make sense because she pulls that giant barb out of her head, and they still find her pretty easily. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, and they don't like come off as like any kind of intelligent species. Like
Nope.
they act like
They're a horde of
wild. Yeah.
Also similar to human researchers, quote, they won't tag and study every single creature in the breed, just a random few to study in depth. I mean, sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, fans. That's fine.
Yeah, knowing that there are 10 people just like kind of picking apart at the script, like it's clear that there was no. It's even hearing the original idea, like it's clear that nobody even cared enough. Like they're just like, I don't like. They really, like even the Wes Craven thing is like we have to like make this movie. It was a trick. It's all a trick. There's no solid ground here. Nobody cares about this movie because like nobody has anything invested in this movie. Like
This is the early 2000s equivalent to Chud 2, Bud the Chud, in that it was just, we need to make a movie because we need people to go to theaters. We need to trick people into seeing this movie so that we can make money.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is, as far as I can tell.
It's better than Bud the Chud.
I don't think anything is better than Bud the Chud. That shit's great.
It's awful.
Recommend. Scenes are featured in the work print. There are some scenes that are featured in the work print but excluded from the theatrical release. Here's one of them. Some of them weren't that interesting. After Julia removes the object from her scalp, she runs to Sam's apartment. As Sam is being attacked, Julia is shown running through the city. She enters the building and calls out Sam twice. The second time, he hears her and yells back, "Julia?" But he is pulled underneath the elevator. She calls his name twice more, and his body is thrown through a window and lands on top of her. A monster on his back growls at Julia and pulls Sam's corpse into the darkness. So that could have been cool. I mean, it couldn't have hurt to have a little more action, really. As much as like,
less talking. That's for damn sure.
I mean, it didn't hurt. Like, the one thing that we didn't really cover, but actually did, I think, help at least make it feel like I'm watching something where something's happening, was when she's like crawling through the subway tunnels. I didn't love that, but at least it's an action scene after like a lot of talking in this movie. So I don't know. They could have used a little more action on top of everything else. If they're going to be that dumb, you might as well just load it with shit. Certain DVDs contain the following alternate ending, although all the Blu-ray versions contain it.
Bob.
Julia, I didn't know there was a Blu-ray edition, by the way, and that's shocking.
Me either. Yeah.
Julia wakes up in a hospital bed. She goes to the door and finds it locked. She looks through a small glass window. There she sees all of the people in her story. Dr. Booth, Billy, Sam, Terry are patients in the mental hospital, and her boyfriend Paul is the doctor. Suddenly, the window in her door breaks open, and one of them skitters through the window, but the window remains unbroken. It's all a delusion, and Julia stands in disbelief. And as she does, notations from her chart flash across the screen. Patient number, blah, blah, blah. Committed 1992 at age 16. Diagnosis, paranoid schizophrenic. Recommendations, doctor requires secure environment and constant medication. So, yeah, there's at least an alternate ending that speaks to the red herring a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's any better, really, but I don't know, man.
Not with the way they developed it, but yeah, whatever.
I wish they would have done something with it, but I don't think it's that. I don't know. It's asking too much of this movie. But and here's the third alternate ending. The work print features an alternate ending which is not available on DVD anywhere. When Julia is knocked out in the subway, it cuts to 9 months later in a mental hospital. Julia convinces a panel of psychiatrists, including Dr. Booth, that she is cured. She sees one of the monsters climb through an air shaft in the ceiling, but continues to claim that they don't exist. She is released and goes home only to set up high-powered lights all over her apartment. The camera pulls out of her bedroom as she sits on her bed, and a door creaks open in the darkened hallway and cuts to black. I kind of like that that's ambiguous, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean...
And it plays with, like, the lights idea. Like, that's what I didn't like. I didn't like that they could just shut off the lights. There was no, like, survival tactic or anything. There was nothing like... Yeah, it's like, oh, light keeps them away, but they just shut them off. It's like, well, fuck me then, right?
Man, that's this movie was written by 10 people, and only one of them wanted to take credit. So,
dude, when you don't even want credit, it's like, nah, just keep this one.
Yeah, I'll help you write your movie. Just don't put my name anywhere near it.
Yeah, nah, don't. Go ahead, don't mention me on this one.
So that's trivia.
Cool. Let's talk horror news. All right, gentlemen. So first up on the chopping block here, production has officially begun on Shudder's original Creep Show series.
Cool.
Which is fucking cool. It's supposed to air sometime later this year. Hopefully, come spooky season, I would imagine. So it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes deep. And they went ahead and announced like the names of the different episodes and the people who wrote them. Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, actually wrote one. The dude who wrote Bird Box wrote one. Who else on here? Dude who wrote The Hitchhiker wrote one. The guy who wrote Monster House wrote one.
Wait.
Walking Dead people. Yeah.
Monster House?
Yeah, the
like
animated
kids movie.
Dan Harmon?
Rob Schraub.
Oh, Rob Schraub.
Yeah.
I thought Dan Harmon wrote that. I know that he was involved in it, but Rob. Okay, great. Yeah. Harmontown fan. Go.
Yeah, actually, this says 6 episode season, but then it lists 7 episode titles, so I don't understand if there's either 6 or 7. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. But yeah, it's coming out later this year, and I am stoked on it. It's Greg Nicotero's kind of the showrunner, basically, of Walking Dead fame. So it's I don't know. Like I said before, Shudder has been killing it with their original content, and I don't really see how this could be bad. I'm all in.
I'm into it. I like
Yeah.
Rob. I like Rob Schraub's shit.
Rashab. So yeah, the next bit of news we got coming up here. Joe Hill. I guess he wrote a novel called Nosferatu, which I have not read. But AMC picked it up to turn it into a series.
Oh.
So I guess it's already shot. The pilot's going to premiere at South by Southwest this year. And it's, I don't know exactly when it's going to be airing on AMC. They haven't released that information as of yet. But the story is as follows. In the journey, they become these ghoulish creatures. This is like kind of a halfway explains what's going on. So there's like, I guess there's this character who like eats kids, and the kids turn into monsters basically. So he's basically a Nosferatu character, and he drives around this like creepy car. I don't know. There's some stills online that you can look at, and it looks fairly entertaining. I don't know. Do you guys know anything about this novel specifically?
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, it's set in New England, I guess.
Shocker.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. I guess it's gonna be cool. Some sort of interesting twist.
I guess it's gonna be cool.
Some sort of interesting twist on a vampire tale.
And we reached critical mass for vampires for a while there. I think it
Yeah.
might be okay. Like it might be hitting the point where, only people who are smart, deft enough to handle it are going into it. So I don't know. Once we got through all the Twilights of the world, I think that we sort of, I don't know, people are hesitant to even go in that direction anymore unless they really have an idea, I hope.
One
Yeah.
thing that's cool about that Kingdom show, that zombie South Korean show, is it's kind of like they're like zombie vampires, kind of, because they can only come out at night, like the zombies, or it's kind of like a He Is Legend kind of thing too, I guess. I Am
Legend.
I Am Legend. Yeah, He Is Legend. Yeah, I Am Legend. Kind of like that kind of deal too, I guess. So that's kind of cool too. Like you get to see kind of some blends of some creatures that you've seen for a long time, kind of know the rules, but kind of twists on them.
That's cool. So yeah, if you're
really
into
want to go on.
if you're into a creepy old guy driving around a Rolls Royce and sucking blood out of kids, turning them into creepy little monsters,
Always.
sounds
The
like
phrasing of that
Nosferatu's up
needs
your
some
alley.
work. Needs some workshop, that phrasing.
Phrasing.
Sorry.
God, you guys need to watch Archer.
Just a guy rolling around in a Rolls Royce sucking kids. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
The real Jeff Epstein situation.
Sold to the highest bidder. The last news story coming up here. More good news coming down the pike from Shudder. So they've got another documentary series coming out that's going to explore the legends of cursed horror film sets.
Yeah,
so
what's going on with that? Is there more than one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not just Poltergeist? I thought
Yeah.
it was just Poltergeist.
Yeah. The set of The Exorcist was like notoriously haunted, apparently, as well. So I don't know. I couldn't rattle off like 10 or 12, but I know there are several. And that sounds like freaking awesome, and I'm way into it.
Oh man. I hope they go into Family Feud a little bit. That set's first as fuck.
Is it actually, or is this a joke?
Well, for a long time, people really actually thought that because it's fucking like every host that they had like really horrible things happen to them for a long time.
And they all like committed suicide and shit, right?
Like some of them committed suicide,
Damn.
Some of them like OD'd, like all kinds
Louis
of shit.
Anderson
I think
and-
no, Louis is fine. Louis is like the first one I think that was fine, and then
He
now
didn't. I thought he killed himself.
he's alive.
No, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, my bad. Who am I confusing him with? I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, I think he was the first one that kind of broke that trend, and then obviously Steve Harvey's on there making shocked faces at people for a living for like 10 years now. So
I love that his logo is just like a bald head and a mustache. Fucking Steve Harvey.
says everything he needed to say.
Yeah. So this show is coming out later this year as well, and I'm way into it. Shudder, fucking killing it. So Cooter, is there a Cooter of this movie? I don't really know that there is, honestly.
Nah, there's not like
Yeah.
enough character development for a
Yeah.
Cooter.
There's literally
Yeah.
there's not none of these people have enough enough
Traits.
characterization.
Like even if somebody was going to be a cougar, they'd have like one trait because everybody in this movie has like one trait. That's their thing. Like, oh, I'm dark and brooding. Oh, I'm the perfect white guy. Oh, I'm like I have no eyebrows. I mean, that's their thing.
Fucking Marilyn Manson head ass.
Oh, also speaking of the music in this film, by the way, they placed like this movie was definitely made, I think, in order to sell a CD. I'm pretty sure. Because it's got the Slipknot poster. I'm pretty sure I hear a "Saves the Day" song at one point. When their CD skips at one point, it's some like dumbass track. I've never like some sort of like not trap, but whatever, some sort of like electronic remix of some kind. And then when her car comes back on, it's an entirely different song because they have to squeeze one more goddamn song in there for marketing.
This movie is like the film equivalent of an Edema record, basically.
Oh
man. So let's go ahead and
check your phone first.
I did. I saw it.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get into a new segment here. So if you follow us on like social media and stuff, we put out I guess like an ad about a week ago or something like that.
Personal ad.
Personal ad. So we've got a phone number that you can call and leave us voicemails should you choose to do so. So we were basically just soliciting calls earlier this week, and we got a few calls, we got a few voicemails we're going to play. Basically, the way we're going to do this is, assuming that we get a quantity of voicemails that is within reason, we'll play them on the show. But if we end up getting like crazy numbers, we'll have to figure out what to do with them. But some weeks we'll probably prompt you with a specific question, or try and get your thoughts on something. Or you can always just call and say what's up, or tell us how stupid we are and that you hate our show, and that's
we want your hate voicemails. Send us your hate.
You can crank call us too, see if our refrigerator's running. The options are limitless here, people.
Today though, we have 2 questions which we can answer, so that's kind of nice.
Yes, absolutely.
We can provide a service to you, an actual service.
Yeah. So just in case you want to call, the number that you can reach us at is going to be 904-638-3231. That is 904-638-3231. Do your worst, people. So yeah, we got 3 voicemails here. 2 of them are from the same person. I'm gonna go ahead and play those 2 back to back, and then we can answer those questions, and then I'll play the 3rd one next. So without further ado, here we go. Thanks so much for calling us, Stacey. We appreciate it. And not only do you sound like a stalker, I am quite sure that you just are indeed a stalker.
Who is this weird, creepy stalker that wants to give us money?
What the fuck?
Why aren't there more of you?
Bordello of Blood, classic straight chilling episode. It's like
is, yeah.
Billy Zane just steals fucking movie.
Oh, Randy.
Randy wanted a bit of Billy Zane. I love it.
Billy Zane.
Yeah, as far as us covering Scream, we actually did cover Scream long ago in like our original 60 shows. I think it was like episode number 31 or something like that. It was before we totally revamped the show and like changed the structure of everything. So I don't know that we really did Scream justice per se, but it is by far one of my favorite horror movies of all time as well. It's fucking incredible.
Side note, in the text-to-speech reading of that voicemail, it said your favorite horror movie is Cream, and I was pretty excited.
I love. Yeah, Google tries to transcript the message, and it's like pretty awful all the times. It's pretty funny.
I was like, Cream? How have we not reviewed a fucking horror movie called Cream?
Cream, terrifying.
Oh man, Bordello of Blood, fucking classic. Also, yes, that is me at the beginning of the song. Wait, at the beginning of the song, in the intro. Yes, it is. If you didn't know, me and Rob actually make music. Rob made the music to this podcast and also wrote the lines for that podcast. He just asked me to rap them, but we actually have a lot of music.
2 writers, only one wants to take credit.
We actually have a lot of music on like iTunes and Spotify. I guess the same place you would listen to Straight Chilling under Kudos the Kid. Rob makes a lot of music and I do the vocals for those. So if you like our intro music, you can always check that out. But yes, that is me at the beginning.
For sure. Juice Ton. I'm going to go ahead and play that third voicemail, and I believe we have another question to answer. So here we go. Thank you, Perfecto, I think is what you said your name is. I'm not 100% sure on that, but thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Justin, why don't you talk about some alien hooters or something?
Yeah, I have not seen Society. I will say that I really appreciate that when people are saying Yabos, they're thinking of me. So, I mean, that's wonderful. But no, I have not seen Society from 1989. I actually haven't looked it up either. Does anybody know who the director is?
It's Brian Yuzna.
Brian Yuzna.
Okay. So I am not aware of these alien Yabos of which you speak, but I am certainly color me intrigued.
Yeah, that's a movie that I actually like. I've come close to picking before, just out of curiosity, because it shows up like in the most unexpected, like top 10 lists and shit like that. I don't know. I'm interested in it. I would like to check it out.
Yeah, it's got the there's a scene towards the end of it. I haven't seen it either, but it's commonly referred to as the shunting scene. I don't really know what that means or what happens, but apparently it's fucking like body horror craziness.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that I'm curious about, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk about it one day. We could get weird with it. Talk about shunting, whatever the fuck that is.
Let's shunt it up.
I think I just shunted in my drawers.
Oh.
New brown
God
shorts guy?
New shunt-colored shorts.
Do these shorts come in shunt by any chance?
Man, when we find out what that means, I think we're going to be pretty horrified.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I said it so many times. But yeah, thanks so much for calling in, guys. We really appreciate it.
I just want to put this out there. The drunker you call, the more likely it is we'll play you on air. So,
I love that.
You have
Also,
to get your
I don't
drunk-
know if these people knew they would be played on air. If you want to leave your name, I guess that's fine. Whatever. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's up to you guys, but definitely call drunk. No promises otherwise.
Pound 5 to 7 Schlitzes and then call. Do that.
Stoned also works. Be impaired is what I'm encouraging, and I expect no legal fallout from that.
Again, if you guys want to call, the number is 904-638-3231. Hit us up. We like hearing from you. That's it for us this week here at Straight Chilling. That pretty much covers everything. So we're going to be back next week with another brand new show. We're going to be talking about a new movie, actually, the second movie to be released in 2019 that we're going to be covering. And I'm going to let my good friends from Alien Ant Farm tell us what movie that is exactly. That's right.
You
Happy
son of a
Death Day
bitch.
to you.
Had it all queued up and everything.
Oh, I love that song. It's a good song.
Did you? Man, we're really sending mixed signals, shitting on this film from being early 2000s, and then like gushing about Alien Ant Farm. Okay, all right.
See, I did listen to Alien Ant Farm when I was 12, but I did not see this movie when I was 12. That's the difference.
Well, you're a pretty smooth criminal, Rob. I'll give it to you.
It's such a good cover. They do a good job. And there's a monkey in the music video. What else do you need in life?
Oh man, that's a real selling point for some reason.
So yeah, we're gonna be back next week talking about Happy Death Day to you. Until then, you can rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling. We're on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. Hit us up on YouTube with our official URL, youtube.com/straightchillingpodcast.
Yeah.
If you want to hit us up on our Slack channel, just let me know through one of those various social media outlets I just mentioned, and I can send you a link so you can join us on Slack. I think that's everything. There's so many now, so many things. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Kawaii.
We did it.